Today I'm going to be showing you a few of the best current graveyard decks in Clash Royale. I'm also going to be walking you through the gameplay, walking you through the strategy, how to play graveyard, so that, whether you're at 500 trophies or 10,000 trophies, hopefully you can learn something about the basics of playing graveyard, how to play it better, and how to win games with it. So I want to be showing you a few different graveyard decks, which, according to Royale API, are some of the best in the game right now. And this video is tailored a bit more towards people that may have just unlocked Graveyard. I believe you unlock it close to 4,000 trophies is the arena where you can unlock it. And so this video is tailored a bit more to those people who may just be wanting to learn the basics, maybe wanting to learn the fundamentals of how to play Graveyard, how it works, how you want to play it, what decks work out well with it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This first deck that we're going to be trying out is a giant graveyard deck. Many of you may have seen it. Jinxie, I don't, back when he played the game more consistently, or back when he played the game at all, played pretty much this exact same deck. It is a giant graveyard deck. And it relies on a couple things. It relies on having the giant or the bowler tanking for the graveyard. And what that means is you never want to go graveyard just by itself. It's very easy to counter if you do that. So what you want to do is you want to have something that is tanking for it. You want to have it cross the bridge. You want to have the opponent's tower targeting something heavier instead of the skeletons. So we don't have enough for graveyard now, but I'll show you what I mean a little bit later, right? In this case, if we had enough as soon as the giant crossed, we would go with a graveyard, and then the opponent's tower would be targeting the giant, and the skeletons would accumulate on his tower. And that's kind of the case, not just with this deck, but with any graveyard deck you see. I think with any graveyard deck, you will notice that there's at least one tank. Sometimes there's even two. Like in this deck, we have Giant as a tank and Bowler as a tank. So we kind of have two tanks. Also, we're going to go minions just because if he does go with his flying pigs, we can snowball them. And I think because of that, we'll go with a Giant, because even if he goes with his pigs, we can snowball them and be okay. But instead, okay, he's going to go with them a little bit later. He's going to lightning that. So here's what I mean. All right, the giant, as soon as it crosses the bridge, right about here, you do that. Now the tower is targeting the giant, and there's nothing hitting the graveyard. Right? You can have your vines ready, but something to be mindful of is when you vines, the tower is going to retarget onto the skeletons. The same case is with the freeze deck that I'm going to be showing you in a little bit. Once we try out that graveyard freeze deck, again, if you freeze, the tower is going to retarget, but essentially you want a graveyard once you have a tank for it. So when the giant crossed, we went with a graveyard. If the bowler had crossed, we could have gone with a graveyard as well, so that the bowler was tanking. And if you look at these other couple of decks, you'll notice the same thing. You'll notice that there are tanks in these decks as well. This second deck that we're going to be trying out has Evil Valkyrie as the tank. And the third deck has Bowler and kind of Golden Knight as a secondary tank, and even the Executioner. Although he's not the tankiest card, he can kind of be used as a tank as well. So if you're wondering, more than anything, how do I build a graveyard deck with the cards that I have, which is definitely something that I wondered. I'll tell you a little bit about that in the next game, but if you're just wondering how to build a graveyard deck, you want to use these fundamentals. Have at least one tank. You can have two tanks as well. That works out well. You can even have kind of a third mini tank as well in the mini P.E.K.K.A. You also want a spawning card that kind of sits in the back and is really annoying. Typically, that's either the Furnace or the Witch. So either having the Furnace, the Witch, a tank, a couple of spells that are good at clearing out swarm cards. So with this, we have Poison and Vines. With this deck, it's Vines and Snowball. And then with this last deck, it's Freeze and Tornado, which isn't quite as good of a combo as clearing out Goblin Gangs and whatnot, but You essentially want a couple of small spells, and then a couple of really solid defensive cards that you can pretty much rely on to defend. Right? A lot of graveyard decks have Bowler, because you can pretty much rely on the Bowler to defend massive pushes. This one also has Zappies as well. This one has Goblin Hut. Evil Valkyrie kind of acts as a very good defensive card as well. So those are kind of the fundamentals if you're wanting to learn, what do I put in my graveyard deck? Make sure you have a couple of tanks. If you don't have a lot of tanks in the lower arenas, I would suggest using the basics, right? Maybe just using a Giant and a Valkyrie is enough. If you have Bowler unlocked, maybe that's a good card to use as well. Mini P.E.K.K.A. is also a solid option. Having a spawner, like either the Witch or the Furnace. And then having a couple of spells that are good at clearing out swarms. Poison is a great option, and Snowball works as well. So those are kind of the fundamentals of a graveyard deck. The second one that we're going to be trying is a little bit different because we do not have quite as many tanks. The other giant graveyard deck that we tried had Giant, Bowler, and Mini P.E.K.K.A., which could kind of be used as another tank. This one pretty much just has the Valkyrie. So we're pretty much just going to be relying on the Valkyrie to tank for the graveyard here. With this, he's also probably going to want to use his hero goblins to defend. So the idea is that we're going to put a Valkyrie in the back. Once it crosses the bridge, we'll go with a graveyard, and then we will poison. Also, we're just gonna have to. I didn't defend that skeleton barrel very well, so we're gonna have to eat quite a bit of damage there. So here's the plan. We'll actually start now because he just used his Dark Goblin there, which is a pretty good answer for the graveyard. We will then go with a Furnace. And then as soon as this Valkyrie crosses, we will go with a graveyard. And now you can see the Valkyrie crossed. Now it's tanking. We don't have enough for poison just yet. But the Furnace is just kind of able to sit back. The skeletons are able to get a bit of damage. And you know what? When I say that they got a bit of damage, I didn't think it was only going to be 100 damage. So maybe that was a bad graveyard by me. But the good thing about this deck is that it's very... I was going to say it's a very defensive deck, but then I just failed to defend. Okay, we got to lock in because this deck definitely has the potential to win this game. I'm just not playing it very well. So we'll bar barrel once these cross. And I said in the intro that this video is tailored more to beginners. Maybe if you're not a beginner, maybe if you're more of a seasoned veteran when it comes to graveyard, maybe you can critique me because I'm not a pro by any means. So maybe if you're a bit more experienced, you can coach me how to play graveyard, because I think I'm able to teach very beginners the basics of it. But I definitely have a lot to learn myself, and that game was kind of an example of that. We'll play one more game with this third deck, which has a little bit of a different variation because of the freeze. And what you'll notice with the freeze is that it's not as imperative that something is tanking for the graveyard when you go with the graveyard, because the freeze kind of is enough of a threat on its own that you can kind of just go with that. So hopefully we can redeem ourselves for that second game with this one here. And instead of telling you, about how to build a graveyard deck, we're just going to try to focus entirely on the gameplay. Because a lot of graveyard decks are a little bit heavier, typically you want to wait till your opponent makes the first move, just because you don't just want to cycle cards for no reason, just because it's not a cycle deck. You can see the cheapest card in our hand right now is 4 Elixir, so it's not like we have any spirits that we can cycle. We're just going to try and wait on him to make the first move, and now we'll cycle one of our cards. And I think that's the case with pretty much all of these decks, I believe. Also, I don't know why I'm getting AirPods notifications on here. I'm not connected to any AirPods right now, but what was I saying? I think with pretty much any graveyard deck, because you went so aggressive there, we're actually going to go in already. Normally I wouldn't do this, but if you notice that your opponent is spending a ton of elixir, like if they're using, okay, he is Mother Witch. This is going to be a true test because Mother Witch is the perfect counter to Graveyard. There is not a better counter to Graveyard than Mother Witch. We'll try to activate King here with the Tornado, and that's not bad. That's you know again, I'm not super proud of that, but typically that's something that I try to keep an eye out for. If your opponent he spent a lot on the Giant Skeleton, on the Royal Ghost, and then he vinesed everything. If they do that, you can typically afford to go a little bit aggressive. And even though he had the perfect counter in his hand for the graveyard, we were still able to defend okay. So we are going to have to be cautious, though. When going in with a graveyard, we have to keep in mind that he's going to have Mother Witch. We probably don't want to go graveyard too many more times just because of that reason. We might just have to hope. We might just have to graveyard freeze and just hope to take his tower in one push, because I don't know if we can do any more than one push with the Mother Witch. So what we'll do is we'll hold on to our cards for now because he does have Battle Ram. And I don't really think that was a very good Vines because that's still going to counter it. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go Bowler in the back. When he Mother Witches for the graveyard, we will freeze it. And I'm hoping that this can do 1,000 damage. Because he's going all in over there. I don't know that we can defend that. I don't know why I'm committing Elixir over to that lane. But okay. We will Graveyard as soon as he goes with his Mother Witch. We will freeze it, and I hope and pray that does 1,000 damage, and it does. So that is kind of how you use a Graveyard Freeze deck. Even against Mother Witch you can win. And that guy was an Ultimate Champion as well, so that's kind of the fundamentals of how to use Graveyard. You typically want to... Holy, wow, that was a very lucky drop. Thank you. Thank you, Supercell. I usually do not get blessed, but I guess they know I'm recording a video and they want to improve their reputation, so they're like, you know what, let's make people think that we give out good stuff, because I never get... That's probably the first 5-star drop I've gotten in like 2 weeks, so it's like they know I'm recording a video and giving me extra special stuff just so you guys can see it. But that's kind of how you use Graveyard. We didn't play that second deck very well, but typically have a couple of tanks, have a couple of spells. Freeze is not as common as some of these other decks. You don't see Graveyard Freeze a whole lot. I would say if you're looking for just one Graveyard recommendation to use at a lower arena to climb trophies, it would be this one. This is the deck I would recommend. It's probably the simplest to use. These are all cards that you unlock fairly early on. Unlike, the Evo Inferno Dragon and Evo Executioner, which, Zappies, and these might take a while for you to unlock, but this is kind of a fairly basic deck that relies on a very broken synergy. So if you're looking for graveyard decks to climb trophies and you've kind of just unlocked it, this would be my recommendation. Make sure that the Giant or the Bowler crosses the bridge and then go with your graveyard, and then have one of these two ready for if they play a Skeleton Army or a Goblin Gang. And you should find that you get a decent bit of damage. You should also find that Mega Knights are not too much of an issue with the Mini P.E.K.K.A. and the Bowler. So this should help you to climb through the mid ladder if you are struggling. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. Let me know if there are any video ideas that you want me to try next. And I will see you all in either a future video or a future stream.